I swapped the boss's healthy lunch for my Nashville hot chicken platter by mistake. She stared at the side containers of chili-dusted fries and spicy pickles, her brow furrowed into a knot. The next day, she cornered me at my cubicle. Yesterday's snacks. I'll take some more. I pointed to the photo blowing up on the company's internal Slack. You got caught red-handed with my fries. I think that warrants a royalty fee, don't you? Later, she messaged me late at night. It's raining. My chili stick supply is critical. I bolted out into the downpour to deliver her a junk food care package. She asked me through a mouthful of spicy jerky. Do permanent members get a discount? Wednesday, 11:58 a.m. T-minus 2 minutes until freedom. At my desk, my finger hovered over my phone screen like a sprinter at the starting block. 12 o'clock sharp. I stabbed the DoorDash icon with lightning speed. A place specializing in Nashville hot chicken had just rolled out a new Diablo's Inferno platter. The picture was an intimidating shade of red, and my stomach was already doing backflips. Order. Pay. Wait. 40 excruciating minutes later, my phone rang. Hey, your food's on the shelf in the lobby, the driver said, his voice hurried. Got it, man. Thanks. I shot out of my chair like a cannon. Sprinting for the elevator, only one thought consumed me. Faster, faster. That piece of crispy, chili oil-drenched, fall-off-the-bone chicken was waiting for me. The delivery shelf was a chaotic mess of paper bags. I scanned for the last 4 digits of my phone number and immediately spotted a familiar branded bag with the chicken joint's huge logo on it. That was it. I snatched it. The bag was heavy, and the air filled with the savory scent of fried chicken and a faint, spicy kick. My mouth started watering like crazy. Back at my desk, I dropped the bag on the surface and impatiently tore open the tightly knotted handles. The moment it opened, a very distinct but completely unexpected aroma hit me. It wasn't the aggressive, greasy, complex fragrance of fried chicken and cayenne pepper. Instead, it was, well, a very restrained smell, like grass mixed with soil, and a faint, almost imperceptible hint of a sea breeze. I looked down. The inside of the large white container was offensively clean. A few limp lettuce leaves formed a sad base, sprinkled with several pieces of pale, boiled chicken breast. A pile of half-cherry tomatoes and cucumber chunks sat off to the side. The worst part was the dressing in a separate compartment, a grayish, viscous paste that looked completely devoid of soul. The main course was a small, sad lump of quinoa that looked less appetizing than plastic. A salad. A health nuts lunch. Where's my hot chicken? Where's my juicy, chili oil-slicked, sweat-inducing Diablo's Inferno platter? I stiffly raised my head. The order receipt was stapled to the outside of the bag. The phone number on it wasn't mine. And in the name field, 2 words were printed with perfect clarity. Eleanor Vance. My brain went blank for a full 5 seconds. The name Eleanor Vance had a chilling effect. She was the new marketing director, recently transferred to our division. The legendary Ice Queen. In the month and a half since she'd started, no one had heard her utter a single word that wasn't strictly business. She was always dressed in impeccably tailored skirt suits, and the sound of her heels clicking on the floor was enough to send a shiver down your spine. One glance from her could turn the rowdiest intern in the department into a scared little mouse. I'd had a run-in with her in the elevator once. Just the 2 of us. The air was so thick you could cut it with a knife. She had this frosty aura, like she'd just gotten back from a vacation in the Arctic Circle. And now, I, Ryan Miller, a junior project coordinator who'd barely cleared his probationary period, had just stolen Director Vance's lunch, and it was a god-awful health salad. My hand trembled, nearly sending the box of leaves tumbling onto my keyboard. Panic. I had to fix this. Now, I grabbed the imposter delivery bag like it was a live bomb. Taking 2 steps at a time, I raced toward the eerily quiet second-floor executive area. My heart was hammering so hard it felt like it was going to leap out of my throat. The marketing department zone radiated an unapproachable, elitist vibe. The entire area was silent, save for the soft, rhythmic tapping of keyboards. Through the glass wall of the only illuminated office, the director's office, I saw Eleanor Vance. Her head was slightly lowered, the line of her profile as sharp and clean as if it had been carved by a master sculptor. Her fingers flew across her laptop keyboard. She was so focused, it seemed as if the world consisted of nothing but her and the data on her screen. I didn't have the guts to just knock and say, "Excuse me, Ms. Vance, I think I accidentally mugged you for your lunch." So I tiptoed over to the receptionist's desk for their section, a young intern. The girl was engrossed in her phone. "Hey," I whispered, pointing toward the director's office. I think this is Director Vance's delivery. It must have been dropped off on our floor by mistake." The intern looked up, bewildered. She glanced at the restaurant logo on the bag, then back at the office. "Oh, I think that's the place she orders from. You can just put it on that shelf over there." She pointed to a small shelving unit against the wall, already cluttered with a few Amazon boxes and some miscellaneous items. I gently placed the bag down, feeling a wave of relief. On my way back to my third-floor cubicle, I couldn't stop wondering, where was my Diablo's Inferno platter? Did some other hungry wolf in the office snatch it, or did the driver deliver it to the wrong building? My stomach grumbled loudly. My wallet hurt, too. That platter wasn't cheap. I opened the DoorDash app, planning to check the driver's route for clues. Suddenly, a notification popped up. "Your order has been received and signed for by someone else at the front desk. Enjoy your meal." I stared at the notification, reading it 3 times to be sure. There was no mistake. Eleanor Vance had my Nashville hot chicken. The scene instantly materialized in my head. The untouchable ice queen, Eleanor Vance, dressed in an expensive gray power suit, her posture ramrod straight, using the same hand that signs million-dollar contracts, to slowly untie the greasy handles of the bag, to lift the clear plastic lid, stained with red, oily residue. A powerful, aggressive aroma of fried chicken, cayenne, paprika, and garlic powder exploding into her pristine office. Imagine it. Her, staring blankly at the glistening, mahogany red, monstrously large pieces of chicken. Her fork hesitantly pushing aside a few sliced pickles. Finally, spearing a piece. The mental image was so vivid, I almost couldn't handle it. Mainly because I was afraid I'd laugh myself to death right there at my desk. But what about my lunch? I was starving. I had no choice. My stomach practically eating itself. I ducked into the convenience store downstairs. I picked out the biggest, heaviest, most calorie-dense California roll I could find. As I stood at the counter, scanning the barcode, the receptionist, who loved to gossip, was whispering with someone, her eyes darting toward the second floor. "Hey, I just saw Director Vance go get her lunch." She looked as cold as ever on her way back. But the bag she was carrying, it didn't look like that salad place she always orders from. It looked kind of greasy, and did I smell fried chicken? Her voice was low, but in the quiet elevator bay, every word was crystal clear. I took a huge bite of my sushi, rice, imitation crab, and avocado mashed together. It wasn't bad, but for some reason, the image of Director Vance and the Nashville hot chicken floated back into my mind. I choked a little and had to chug half a bottle of water to wash it down. Around 3 in the afternoon, the project team's Slack channel suddenly exploded with notifications. I clicked it open. The first was a link, Company Gossip Anonymous. Net. The second was a message. OMG. You guys have to see this. Proof. My stomach dropped. I had a bad feeling about this. I clicked the second link. The headline was pure clickbait. Massive. The Ice Queen meltdown. Is our flawless director cracking under pressure? Photo evidence inside. My scalp tingled. I scrolled down. A few paragraphs of dramatic analysis followed. According to a reliable source, Director Vance, who is known to subsist entirely on kale and quinoa, was seen today with a takeout order labeled extra spicy. Combined with recent news of immense pressure on the marketing team, one can't help but wonder if this extreme stress has led to a dramatic shift in her dietary habits. Even more concerning, an anonymous eyewitness reported that the director's expression was tense and her steps heavy as she returned to her office, suggesting a profound internal struggle with her unhealthy lunch choice. At the very bottom, there was a photo, taken from a sly angle, but the image was clear enough. Obviously a candid shot. It was taken right next to the delivery shelf in the marketing department's area. Eleanor Vance was in the middle of shrugging her expensive-looking tote bag off one shoulder. In her other hand, she held a very conspicuous red and white paper bag. You could almost smell the grease through the screen. The bag was emblazoned with the giant logo of the Nashville hot chicken place I'd ordered from. The photo was taken from behind and to the side. I couldn't see her expression. All I could see was her head slightly bowed, revealing the elegant line of her neck. That posture, as the anonymous source put it, she looked like a warrior marching to her doom. The Slack channel was still going wild. No way is this for real. Director Vance ordered hot chicken. That bag, from a super greasy, super spicy place. Holy crap, it's over. The Ice Queen's entire persona has just shattered. El Mayo, who took this pic? The angle is priceless. Key takeaway. Tense expression, heavy steps. She must have been having a full-blown existential crisis. One brave soul even tagged me. At Ryan Miller, get in here. You love that place, right? Can you confirm? I held my phone, sweat beading on my forehead. My heart was pounding. My finger hovered over the screen, unsure whether to type yes or no. My mind was a chaotic mess. This is all my fault. The driver messed up, I grabbed the wrong bag, and now this huge misunderstanding. Director Vance has definitely seen that gossip thread. With her position and resources, figuring out who ordered that meal would be child's play. And then, she could trace it right back to, I could already picture my manager, Mark, calling me into a conference room with a fake smile plastered on his face. A million regrets flooded my mind. If only I had double-checked the damn receipt. Now, not only was the director the subject of office gossip, which I started, but my own career was on thin ice. The anxiety was suffocating. My fingers felt stiff on the keyboard. The rest of the afternoon was torture. I kept feeling eyes on my back, but didn't dare turn around. Every time the door to the director's office made a sound, my spine would go ramrod straight. But the storm I was bracing for never came. Right up until I clocked out for the day. Nobody said a word to me. The marketing department remained quiet, and a light in Eleanor Vance's office stayed on long after everyone else had left. I went home with a stomach full of confusion and dread. It wasn't until almost 10 the next morning. I was still completely distracted by yesterday's events. I came back from the break room with a large, free, and very strong cup of black coffee. The bitter aftertaste was still lingering in my throat. Just as I set the mug down on my desk, a tall, slender, and utterly unignorable shadow fell across my cubicle wall. The shadow landed perfectly on my keyboard. The air seemed to solidify, like a malfunctioning robot. I turned my head with a series of slow, creaky movements. Eleanor Vance was standing right next to my desk. She was wearing a pearl-white silk blouse and a light gray pencil skirt, not a single wrinkle in sight. Her expression was blank, cold and distant. Her gaze, seen through thin, frameless glasses, landed squarely on my cluttered desk. More specifically, it landed on a half-eaten bag of Demon's Breath, chili lime tortilla chips I hadn't had time to put away. The entire open-plan office fell into a strange, unnerving silence. It was as if someone had hit the pause button. The sound of typing stopped. The chatter ceased. Even the footsteps heading to the water cooler vanished. Countless pairs of eyes shot toward me from all directions, burning holes in my back. Eleanor Vance's cool gaze shifted from the chip bag and landed directly on my face. I swallowed hard. A cold sweat started to form on my back. This was it, the moment of reckoning. Yesterday's mistaken hot chicken platter, combined with the junk food evidence now on full display. Multiple offenses. I was toast. 1,000 possible scenarios flashed through my mind. Being called into my manager's office, a written warning, my bonus docked, or even getting fired. The air was thick and heavy. My colleagues were all pretending to be busy, but I knew their ears were perked up like radar dishes. I braced myself, my throat dry, and forced out the most pathetic words imaginable. MS Vance. Can I help you? Eleanor didn't answer right away. Her eyes seemed to scan the rest of my desk. Next to the half-eaten bag of chips was a menagerie of snacks. An open box of animal crackers, a bag of cheese puffs, 2 bags of pretzels, one new, one just crumbs, an open container of mixed nuts, and even a few individually wrapped Slim Jims that IT was a disaster zone. Her gaze finally settled on a single, unwrapped chocolate wafer bar that lay forlornly by my keyboard, a small bite taken out of it. Her expression didn't change much, but I swear, I saw her pale, pink lips pressed together in a barely perceptible line, as if she were fighting back some urge. Just before the bizarre silence could snap my nerves in two, she finally moved. Her hand, with its clear-polished nails and long, elegant fingers, rose silently. And then, her fingertip, with precise and unwavering aim, pointed directly at the wasteland of junk food on my desk. She spoke in her clear, crisp voice, which sounded like water from a mountain spring, in a tone that was quiet, yet boomed like thunder in the dead-silent office. She said to me, clearly, "Yesterday's snacks. I'll take some more." Huh. A monosyllabic grunt escaped my lips, the sound of a primate regressing. My brain completely shut down. I had to be hearing things, but the soft gas from around the office confirmed I wasn't the only one. Eleanor Vance stood there, her face a blank mask, as if she hadn't just said what she'd said, or as if she wasn't asking for junk food, but rather issuing a critical business directive. It suddenly hit me. She wasn't here to fire me. She wasn't here to reprimand me. She wanted snacks. Yesterday. What about yesterday? Yesterday was just the damn Nashville hot chicken. Yesterday. The only thing that could be considered a snack were the free samples the restaurant had thrown in the bag. A small packet of Demon's Breath chili sticks and some lime tortilla chips. So she meant the chili sticks and the chips. I looked at her face, which seemed to subsist on air and ambition. Then I looked at the finger pointing at my desk. A colossal sense of absurdity and a dizzying shock washed over me. My movements were stiff, like a rusty robot, as my eyes scanned the colorful packaging on my desk. I lunged for a brand new, unopened bag of Demon's Breath chili sticks. Then I grabbed the nearby bag of lime tortilla chips. My fingertips were trembling uncontrollably as I held them out to her, like I was presenting some priceless artifact. These. Are these? My throat was tight, my voice cracking. Are these what you meant? Eleanor gave a slight nod. The movement was almost imperceptible. She reached out and took only the bag of lime tortilla chips, leaving me with a curt, businesslike, "Thank you." She turned and walked away. The pearl-white silk of her blouse caught the light, a smooth, cool gleam. Her heels clicked against the composite flooring, the sound steady and unhurried. Each click landed precisely on my numb heart. It wasn't until she disappeared into the elevator bay leading to the second floor that the frozen atmosphere in the office finally shattered. Countless eyes swiveled back to me. Jake, a UI designer I was friendly with who sat closest to me, slid his chair over with a screech. His eyes were wide as saucers. "Dude, Ryan, what the hell was that? Yesterday we were all gossiping about her image crumbling. And today, she's hitting you up for chips? Was that hot chicken platter yours?" Others crowded around, talking over each other. "Ryan, you're a legend. You've infiltrated the executive suite. I can't believe my eyes. Director Vance eats tortilla chips. And she specifically asked for yesterday's snacks? What happened yesterday? Spill it. Now." So that's why you have a mountain of junk food on your desk. It's a strategic reserve. In the midst of the chaos, I saw my boss, Mark Peterson, standing near the break room. He was holding a freshly filled mug of hot water, his expression a complex mixture of disbelief, curiosity, and a hint of stunned confusion. It looked like that little scene had just fried his CPU. I rubbed my throbbing temples. My brain, which felt like it had been swarmed by a million bees, slowly started to come back online. What snacks were in that hot chicken order yesterday, right? The restaurant threw in a free bag of Demon's Breath chili sticks and one of lime tortilla chips. So, Director Vance was looking for the chips. She spoke to me. Just to get a bag of chips? Not to settle the score? Wait a minute. She also took yesterday's highly controversial Nashville hot chicken platter, which means an unstoppable thought bubbled up in my mind. Not only did she eat that greasy hot chicken, but she also ate the chili sticks I'd left in the bag. And she was even thinking about getting another bag of chips. In my shock, I instinctively grabbed my phone. Fingerprint unlock screen on. My fingers, moving with a life of their own, clicked open the heart of our company's gossip mill, the anonymous internal forum. A huge, flashing breaking banner was at the top of the page. The latest pinned post was highlighted in red. Title, PLOT Twist, the real story behind the lunch mix-up, the culprit revealed. The post was incredibly detailed. It didn't just lay out how I'd taken the wrong order and how Eleanor Vance had accidentally ended up with a high-calorie lunch. It also featured a high-definition photo of the chip transaction that had just happened at my desk. The angle was perfect. Me, holding out the chili sticks and chips. Eleanor, taking the bag of chips. The moment was frozen in time. The caption added fuel to the fire. According to reliable sources, the unhealthy lunch incident that caused a storm yesterday was actually the result of a simple mix-up by new employee Ryan M. Even more shocking, when faced with the evidence, our ice queen did not react with the expected fury. Instead, she personally visited his desk this morning and made a stunning request. Yesterday's snacks, I'll take some more. Believed to be referring to the chips in question, see photo evidence. Is this an unexpected breakthrough in the ice queen's palate? A complete surrender to the allure of junk food? Or is there another explanation? The plot thickens. We invite all colleagues to speculate wildly. The thread already had hundreds of replies. WTF. So it was just a mistake. Okay, a delivery mix-up is understandable. But Director Vance didn't flip out? And she asked for more snacks? Did hell just freeze over? Hold on. Isn't the real takeaway here that the director's hot chicken platter yesterday allegedly came with chili sticks? And she ate them? Including the chili sticks? Chili sticks. My idol has fallen. Wait, what kind? I want some. The person above me is a genius at finding the important details. I knew her expression holding the bag was one of difficult choices. Case closed. It was the call of the chili sticks. Case closed +1. Yesterday's tortured look wasn't about the chicken. It was about her impending loss of control to junk food. Runs and hides. Ryan is the man, quietly feeding the top brass's secret cravings. Gentlemen, I found the new key to corporate survival. Stick close to Ryan in project management. Snacks are the ladder to the top. I took a deep breath, my finger hovering over the screen for a few seconds. Then I shut it off. My mind was a mess. It was good that the misunderstanding was cleared up. But this was social suicide. And what about Director Vance? What would she think of me now, although she didn't seem that angry just now? In fact, she even seemed to want more chips. At 2:00 p.m., a notification for the weekly project team meeting popped up. Location: a medium-sized conference room next to the marketing department. My heart immediately started pounding again. The marketing director would be attending our team's proposal discussion. Sure enough, as I shuffled into the conference room with the rest of the team, head down, Eleanor Vance was already seated near the head of the table. A black leather-bound notebook lay open on her lap, a slim silver pen held between her fingers. The conference room lighting was a bit cold. It cast a pale light on her expressionless face. I deliberately avoided the seats near the projector and found a spot in the farthest corner from her. I wished I could shrink myself into a post-it note and stick to the wall. The meeting began. My boss, Mark, started by having team members present their ideas in order. When it was Mark's turn, as the head of our project team, he took the stage. He stood by the projector screen. Voice filled with passion, he laid out his grand vision for the new quarterly project. Based on an analysis of the core pain points of our target user demographic, specifically professional women aged 25 to 40. We are committed to creating a high-end, refined, and spiritually fulfilling brand experience, with an emphasis on elegance and understated quality. The core creative concept revolves around the Cloud 9 afternoon tea, cultivating a lifestyle of slow living, high quality, and self-care. Mark was on a roll, flipping through the slides. They were all filled with pictures of scenic landscapes, delicate porcelain tea sets, artfully arranged macarons, and elegant women sipping coffee while gazing out of floor-to-ceiling windows. Everything screamed, I don't eat real food. I survive on morning dew. I sat in my corner, pretending to take diligent notes. But my mind was running its own commentary. Does this have anything to do with our actual target audience? Cloud 9 afternoon tea. Our target demographic is too exhausted after work to do anything but collapse on the couch. Porcelain cups. The reality for us corporate drones is instant coffee and a bag of flamin' hot Cheetos. Despite my silent criticisms, I had to maintain a look of, wow, boss, you're a genius. Mark finally finished his artsy presentation. His forehead was dotted with sweat from his impassioned speech. He looked expectantly at the person in charge, the marketing director, Eleanor Vance. All eyes in the room turned to her like spotlights. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioner. Eleanor had been doodling in her notebook the whole time. Now, she finally looked up. Her gaze swept across the room. That look was terrifying. Everyone she looked at instinctively sat up straighter. I held my breath. Her eyes finally landed on Mark. She spoke. Her voice was as steady as a frozen lake. The pain point is not accurately identified. The smile on Mark's face visibly froze. Eleanor didn't seem to notice. She tapped her notebook with the tip of her pen. Proposal A. The main concept is high-end afternoon tea. User demographic. She looked up, her gaze pinning Mark in place. Mark, based on platform feedback and third-party survey data. The core customer group you've identified is 83% female, with 61% of those under the age of 30. The research shows. The top 3 most frequently cited consumer demands from this group are convenience, instant gratification, and affordability. Her voice was flat, but each word landed like a hammer on the table. The user profile is significantly misaligned. The air in the conference room seemed to have been sucked out. Everyone held their breath. Mark's smile completely vanished. Eleanor looked down again, lightly tapping the black leather cover of her notebook. Her fingers were long and clean. Creative concept. The afternoon tea scenario. She looked up again. Her gaze, seen through her glasses, was piercing. It has a weak connection to the real-life situations of our target audience. Survey feedback indicates the most mentioned workday break activities are short breaks at my desk, a quick moment to relax during lunch, and on my commute. She paused, her eyes seeming to sweep across the room. As her gaze passed over my corner, I felt my heart nearly stop. Then she continued, it lacks an emotional hook and immediate viral potential. We need a more impactful visual association that is easy to convert and share quickly. Her speech was unhurried, but each word was like a bead of ice, hitting the table with a clear, hard sound. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. No one spoke. The atmosphere was so tense it felt like it was about to burst. Mark stood there, his face pale then red. His lips moved, but all he could manage was a dry, right? Director Vance is right. We'll adjust immediately. Eleanor ignored him. Her gaze shifted to our side of the table. Ryan. My name called out of the blue. Every hair on my body stood on end. My mind went completely blank. Here it comes, the final reckoning. Yesterday's delivery fiasco, and now a public execution in the meeting. I shot up from my chair, feeling the blood rush to my head. My ears were ringing. Yes, Director Vance. The legs of my chair scraped loudly against the floor. I could feel everyone in the room staring at me. Was it pity, amusement, or were they just waiting to see me get fired? Mark was looking at me too, his expression too complex to decipher. Eleanor looked up, across the distance and under the cold lights. Her gaze landed on my face. It was emotionless, as calm as if she were looking at a potted plant on her desk. The silver pen in her hand, the tip pointed slightly in my direction. And then, in that familiar yet utterly alien, crisp, businesslike voice, she asked, regarding the initial promotional phase of the project, the part about rapid user outreach and stimulating conversion, do you have anything to add? My brain was a complete blank for a full 3 seconds. The public shaming and firing I'd expected didn't come. Instead, a legitimate business question. She didn't even mention yesterday's delivery incident. It was as if nothing had happened. Or was this a more sophisticated, more professional way of calling me out? Dozens of pairs of eyes were fixed on me. The pressure was immense. My heart was pounding against my ribs. All the down-to-earth ideas I'd been silently scoffing at Mark's proposal with were now swirling chaotically in my head. Especially the thought, instant coffee and a bag of flamin' hot Cheetos is the real corporate drone experience. Now that I was on the spot, my mouth seemed to have a mind of its own. Before my brain could catch up, the words were already tumbling out. I licked my dry lips and forced myself to continue. I might have a slightly underdeveloped personal thought. For example, for our key promotional scenario, could we make it a bit more relatable? I glanced at the expensive Cloud 9 afternoon tea on Mark's slide. Or maybe a bit more realistic. You could have heard a pin drop in the conference room. I could feel the pity in my colleagues' gazes. This kid was walking right into the line of fire. Mark's brow was furrowed in a deep frown. Eleanor was still the same, leaning back in her chair, holding that silver pen, gently rolling it between her fingertips, waiting for me to go on. I decided to just go for it. I took a deep breath, and my voice, surprisingly, steadied. I think, for a lot of office workers right now, our time is as fragmented as cookie crumbs on the floor. Things like scheduled gym time, weekend recharging. That's a bit out of reach for the average employee. The office is the main battlefield. I raise my voice slightly, and the pressure is high. We work long hours. We only have an hour for lunch, and even ordering delivery is a race against the clock. Around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, your brain feels like mush and your stomach is growling. That critical moment, I pause for emphasis. A piping hot cup of instant coffee or a super sweet iced tea paired with a spicy, brain cell awakening snack. That feeling, it's like plugging a dead phone into a power bank. Instant recharge. You feel alive again. I said it all in one breath and felt like I was running out of oxygen. The conference room was terrifyingly quiet. I could feel a cold sweat on the back of my neck. I'd blown it. It was too lowbrow. Compared to Mark's Cloud 9 afternoon tea, it was like a county fair next to Paris Fashion Week. I looked down, staring at my own notebook on the table. It was completely blank except for the date. My palms were a little damp. In the suffocating silence, from Eleanor's direction, there was a sudden, very soft click. It was the sound of a pen cap gently touching the linen-textured surface of the conference table. Everyone looked up. Eleanor sat up straight. Her face was still expressionless, but her eyes, usually devoid of emotion, were now looking at me. In her steady, room-freezing voice, she said clearly, "This direction is worth exploring further." With a sharp snap, she closed the black leather notebook on her lap. The sound was crisp and decisive. Focus on satisfying the need for high-value, instant gratification in specific scenarios. The fragmented quick charge during office breaks. Develop a more focused scenario positioning and a memorable hook. She stood up. The perfectly tailored suit outlined her sharp, clean silhouette. The proposal. Rework it before next week's meeting. I want a complete concept. Her gaze finally landed on Mark, who was still frozen in place. "Thank you for your hard work." After those words, she picked up her notebook. The crisp sound of her heels on the floor resumed. Click, clack, click. Step by step, she left the silent conference room. The conference room door closed softly behind her. The air remained frozen for several seconds. Then it exploded. "Holy crap! Ryan, you killed it!" a colleague I was friendly with exclaimed, giving my shoulder a hard shove. "Dude, that was insane. I can't believe you said all that in front of the director, and she actually approved it. Mind-blowing. Her last word were a green light. Right? That was definitely a green light. Ryan, you've been holding out on us. Spill it. How did you get on our good side? What's your secret?" A few of the more outgoing colleagues crowded around me. They were all talking at once, their eyes gleaming with the excitement of seeing something truly bizarre. Mark was still standing where he had been. His face was a mixture of pale and flushed. He looked at me, surrounded by the crowd, his expression as complex as a spilled paint palette. He pushed through the group and walked over. He clapped me on the shoulder hard. The force was a little too much. The smile on his face was strained. Try to look natural. "Nice work, Ryan. Very unique angle. Very. Down to earth." Since Director Vance also sees potential in this direction, he paused deliberately. His gaze swept over the room. He raised his voice. "Then this important task falls to you. As soon as possible, put together a small team and get a draft concept for this quick charge idea. Before next week's meeting, I want to see a concrete implementation plan, including a budget estimate." He paused again, his voice lower, leaning in closer. "Ryan, do a good job. The pressure's on, but this is also an opportunity." He clapped my shoulder hard again twice. As he walked out of the conference room, his back looked a little stiff. For the next few days, I was chained to the quick charge concept. The pressure was immense. Eleanor had singled me out in the meeting, and Mark had dumped the project on me in a way that felt both like a punishment and a promotion. I had no choice but to dive in head first. During the day at the office, I was busy making PowerPoints, creating mind maps, and pulling people aside for small-scale surveys. My brain was stuffed with phrases like time fragmentation, instant gratification, cost efficiency, and office application scenarios. After work at home, I'd open DoorDash, and as I scrolled through the endless food options, all I could think was, could this combo work in my proposal? Is that packaging easy enough to open at a desk? I felt like I was going crazy. Even crazier, I turned my pantry, which was already stocked with a wide variety of snacks, chili sticks, cookies, individually wrapped jerky, nuts, into a research lab. I took pictures of everything, creating a visual database. I even started logging their taste, satiety level, and stimulation factor. My phone's photo gallery was a horrifying sight. Wednesday night, almost 11:00 p.m. I was still glued to my computer, hammering away at the PowerPoint, trying to come up with a catchy, relatable slogan for the quick charge combo. Suddenly, in the bottom right corner of my screen, the icon for our company's instant messaging app, which had been dormant for days, lit up with a faint yellow dot. A new message. Who will be messaging me this late? Mark, chasing me for a progress update? I clicked it open casually. Notification, EV, has sent you a new message. EV, the name associated with those initials in the company directory, immediately popped into my head. Eleanor Vance. My fingers, resting on the mouse, froze. A sense of unease crept up my spine. Was it because my work wasn't up to par and she was about to give me an ultimatum? Or was she finally going to settle the score for the delivery mix-up? My heart, once again, began a race. I clicked on the blinking icon. Eleanor's profile picture was a minimalist, abstract symbol. A few random silver pixels scattered across a deep blue background. It suited her perfectly. The message box contained only a few words. Raining. Chili sticks. Out of stock. 3 words, followed by a question. Any recommendations? I stared at the screen. I read those 4 words, those 2 sentences, at least 10 times. Raining. I instinctively turned to look out the window. I had been so focused, I hadn't noticed. It had started raining at some point. Not a downpour, but a steady, dense drizzle that blurred the yellow streetlights into a hazy curtain. It made a soft, pattering sound against the window pane. Chili sticks. Out of stock. Did she mean she had no more chili sticks to eat? On a rainy night like this, and she was asking me for a recommendation. Not about work. Not to yell at me. Just a simple recommendation for chili sticks. In an instant, a series of images flashed through my mind. The health salad from the initial mix-up. Her sharp, mercilessly precise words at yesterday's meeting. The chip requesting incident this morning. And that candid photo from the company gossip forum of her holding my Nashville hot chicken bag. So, beneath that seemingly unreachable, icy exterior, there might actually be a person with a very particular palate and a slight obsession with specific, stimulating snacks. As this thought emerged, I sat in front of my computer, staring at that incredibly concise message. Outside, the rain fell with a soft, steady rhythm. A strange warmth, mixed with a huge sense of absurdity, welled up inside me. One moment, Ms. Vance, I quickly typed. Then I shot up from my chair, so fast that I knocked over my rolling chair, its legs screeching against the floor. I didn't bother to pick it up. I rushed to a corner of the room and pulled open my strategic reserve, a giant plastic storage bin. It was packed to the brim. On the bottom layer, neatly arranged, were several large bags of chili sticks in various flavors. My mind raced, based on the flavor I'd accidentally given her, Demon's Breath, known for its pure, brutal heat and cheap, stimulating thrill. The king of value. If she could handle that without any issue, then she was a warrior of intense flavors. Her preference was clear, so my fingers decisively moved away from the most ferocious-looking bag, the Inferno Rods, a cheesy name, but the heat was genuinely insane, and landed on a few more reliable options. The classic heat wave, an old favorite, spicy, savory, with a hint of numbing Sichuan peppercorn and great chewiness. The spicy oil shreds, each strand coated in a sweet and spicy sauce, moist and oily, the kind you have to lick off your fingers. The cumin spice strips, a super strong cumin flavor, perfect for munching on while binge-watching shows. And a bag of spicy tofu jerky, a hybrid of chili sticks and dried tofu, with a thick, satisfying texture. On impulse, I also grabbed 2 bags of a popular new applewood smoked beef jerky. a large jar of sour plum candies, 2 individually wrapped spicy duck feet, a few small cups of probiotic jelly, in case the spice was too much for her. Like a wholesaler stocking up at the market, I stuffed everything into a sturdy, large, deep blue shopping bag. Holding the heavy bag, I glanced out the window. The rain hadn't let up at all. The ground was covered in puddles. I hesitated for about 3/10 of a second. Then I rushed to the entryway and grabbed an umbrella. I plunged into the rain. The raindrops hammered against the umbrella. It wasn't too far from my apartment to Eleanor's upscale building, about a 20-minute walk or 2 subway stops. But in the rain, splashing through puddles, it was much slower. My pant legs were quickly soaked. The streets were empty, only the sound of cars driving through water. Following the detailed address Eleanor had sent, I finally found her apartment building. The lobby was bright and grand. The polished, dark gray marble floor reflected the huge crystal chandelier overhead. I carefully placed my dripping umbrella in the stand by the entrance. Carrying the deep blue shopping bag, which was now damp and looked a bit pathetic, I walked to the front desk. The security guard was a young man, dressed in a crisp uniform. He looked at my slightly disheveled state, and the out-of-place, very unfancy-looking shopping bag in my hand. His eyes were filled with scrutiny and a business-like air. "Good evening, sir. Who are you here to see?" I gave him Eleanor's apartment number and name, explaining that I was dropping something off. The guard picked up the internal phone. He dialed. His voice instantly became 8 degrees more respectful. "Ms. Vance, good evening. There's a Mr. Ryan Miller here. He says he's dropping something off for you." He listened for a moment. Then he hung up, and his expression toward me became much more polite. "Ms. Vance will be right down. Please wait a moment." "Okay, thank you," I said, stepping aside, standing under the bright lights. It was only then that I realized how out of place I looked. My hair was half damp from the dripping umbrella. My shoes and socks were soaked, and my pant legs were uncomfortably plastered to my skin. And in my hand was that bulging bag with the huge logos of various chili stick brands peeking out. A few minutes later, the elevator light blinked and the doors slid open. Eleanor Vance stepped out. She looked completely different from her prim and proper office attire. She was wearing a light gray linen loungewear set, the pants loose and comfortable. Her bare feet were in a pair of matching light gray slippers. Her long hair was casually tied up in a messy bun, with a few strands falling lazily around her face. She wasn't wearing any makeup, and her skin looked almost translucent under the cool white light of the lobby. She seemed much more relaxed. There was a softness to her that I had never seen during the day. She walked toward the front desk. Her eyes landed directly on me, and then on the very conspicuous deep blue bag I was holding. When she saw the bulging shape of the bag and the corner of a brightly colored chili stick wrapper peeking out, her steps seemed to falter for a split second, but she quickly regained her composure. She walked right up to me. The security guard tactfully moved away. She stopped, very close. I could smell a faint, fresh scent of shower gel from her, mixed with a hint of something cool and woody like sandalwood incense. "Ms. Vance," I cleared my throat, holding the bag out to her. Are they okay?" Eleanor didn't speak. Her gaze swept over my soaked pant legs and shoulders. Then she reached out and took the surprisingly heavy bag. She seemed to weigh in her hand. "That's a lot," she finally said. Her voice was more relaxed than during the day, or even on the messaging app. There was even a slight hint of a sleepy tone to it. I couldn't tell if it was a question or a statement. No, I quickly explained, a bit incoherently. I don't mean all of them. These are just, some of the best from different brands, different flavors, different heat levels, different textures. You can tell me which one you like next time, so I'll know for the future." As soon as the words were out, I realized how weird they sounded. What did I mean, "so I'll know for the future"? It sounded like I was trying to schedule my next feeding session. Eleanor looked at me. She didn't answer right away. Her face was still unreadable, but her eyes, they seemed a little deeper than before. Under the cool white light of the lobby, her slightly lowered eyelashes cast a small, fan-shaped shadow on her cheeks. After a few seconds of silence, she steadied her grip on the huge shopping bag and gave a very slight nod. "Okay." Then she said, "It's raining hard." "No, thank you. No, you shouldn't have." Just that simple statement. "You, be careful." It's fine. I immediately waved my hands, try to show how tough I was. This is just a little drizzle, no big deal. You should go on up, Ms. Vance. Eleanor looked at me one more time. She didn't say anything else. She just held that bulging, deep blue shopping bag, which clashed horribly with her elegant loungewear and the luxurious lobby, and turned toward the elevator. The elevator doors opened and closed. I stood there under the overly bright lights, watching the red numbers on the elevator display start to climb. The cold, wet fabric of my pants clung to my legs. The sense of absurdity I'd been feeling faded away, and a strange, almost goofy sense of satisfaction slowly started to well up inside me. The rain was lighter on the way back, but my wet pant legs were still cold and clammy against my skin. I walked back to my own apartment building, just as I stepped inside the lobby. BZZZ. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. The screen was lit up. A new message. From EV. Eleanor Vance. The message was even shorter this time. Just 2 words. Chili Porks, 28. Chili Porks. I stood in the dim, motion-activated light of my building's lobby, staring at my phone screen. A huge question mark appeared over my head. Was that a brand? Or a specific flavor? I didn't think there was anything called that in the chili stick world. Or was it some kind of sophisticated code word? I thought about it for a few seconds. I tentatively typed back, Ms. Vance, do you mean? A brand? Or a specific flavor? No response from her end. She was probably busy tearing open the packages. About the time it would take to smoke half a cigarette later, my phone buzzed again. I opened it. This time, Eleanor had sent a photo. The picture had obviously just been taken. The background was the pale marble countertop of her kitchen island, spotlessly clean. The focus of the photo was an open bag of chili sticks. The bag was torn open. Inside the clear vacuum-sealed packaging were thin, deep red, oily-looking chili threads. And just below the opening of the bag, her long, pale fingers were pinching one of the glistening chili sticks. Her nails were neatly trimmed, and there was a smudge of deep red chili oil on them. The photo was taken up close. The focus was a bit blurry. She had probably taken it quickly with her other hand. Below the message was a follow-up explanation. This one, it says the brand is Chili Porks, 29. Chili Porks? I frowned, leaning closer to the screen. On the edge of the open bag in the photo, on the plastic seal of the vacuum packaging, there seemed to be a line of very small printed text. The background was the reflective glare of the plastic bag itself, and the text was made even harder to read by the oily sheen of the chili oil and the blurry focus. Chili Porks, that sounded so unclassy. Were chili stick brand names really that uninspired? In a flash of insight, a bolt of lightning struck my brain. Wait a minute. I quickly looked down and used my fingers to zoom in on the photo. Zoom in, staring intently at the blurry label on the bag. It wasn't Porks. The font was small and distorted by the oily glare, but upon closer inspection, it was Chili Folks, 2 words. Chili and Folks, a small, niche brand known for its wet, savory, oily, and spicy, oily texture. Made in Louisiana. I stared at the word Folks on the photo, which Eleanor had misread as Porks. And I thought back to the meeting the other day, where she had so precisely pointed out the flaws in Mark's user profile, nailing every single data point. And now, looking at a slightly blurry, but not particularly rare word on a chili stick package, she had actually misread it. This icy, sharp director, in the same serious tone she used to discuss multi-million-dollar project implementations, had sent me a photo of her chili oil-stained fingers, and earnestly told me, it says Chili Porks. A huge, indescribable feeling, a mixture of absurdity and amusement, exploded in my chest like a cannonball. I had to fight to keep myself from bursting out laughing in the empty lobby. I was shaking with suppressed laughter. 30. After a good 10 seconds of silent laughter, I finally managed to steady my hand enough to unlock the screen and start typing. I had to be tactful. Ms. Vance, you have a sharp eye. Very impressive. But that word, I think it might be Folks. The cursive is a bit tricky. The brand is called Chili Folks. Not Porks. Message sent. I waited a few seconds. No response. Did I offend her? Correcting her directly? Or was she embarrassed about misreading the word? I felt a little anxious. About a minute later, Eleanor's message finally popped up. Just one, very short word. Oh, 31. Time flew by. The day of the big presentation arrived. This time, I was the one presenting, holding a laser pointer, pointing at the colorful, graphic-filled PowerPoint on the projector screen, passionately explaining my office quick charge plan. The centerpiece was the concept product combo, the 3-minute power surge. The core design, a small, triangular, stand-up box with a matte finish. The exterior featured bold, eye-catching color blocking and dynamic graphics. Inside the box were several individual packages. A small vial of super concentrated, instant coffee liquid for a quick jolt of caffeine, a sealed, high-quality energy bar, or a small bag of crunchy nuts. And at the bottom, the soul of the combo, a vacuum-sealed, spicy, stress-relieving snack with heat levels ranging from gentle to hellfire. The user pain point, time shattered into pieces, brain turned to mush, stomach empty. I emphasized, my voice rising. The solution, get it all done in 3 minutes. Rip it open and feel the satisfaction. Stimulate your taste buds. Wake up your brain. Maximize your efficiency. I was so worked that my face felt hot. The only sound in the conference room was my own voice, buzzing with energy. Eleanor was sitting near the head of the table, still holding that silver pen, gently rolling it between her fingertips, occasionally jotting something down in her notebook, but mostly her head was slightly raised, her gaze fixed on the screen. Her elegant face was as calm as ever. Halfway through my presentation, Mark couldn't help but interrupt. Ryan, he tapped the table, cutting off my passionate speech. This chili stick energy pack idea. It's a bold concept, but including it in the product combo. Isn't it a bit too intense? Won't it cheapen the brand's image? 32. Before I could even think of a comeback, Eleanor, who had been listening quietly without comment, suddenly spoke. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room. The conference room fell silent. Eleanor didn't look at Mark. Her gaze was still on the projector screen. The anonymous survey of 1,000 internal testers we sent out yesterday. The poll on what instant, energizing / stress-relieving element would you most like to see in the Power Surge Pack? Her pen, from across the room, precisely pointed to a bar chart I had included in my PowerPoint. The chart clearly showed the caffeinated beverage option received 47% of the votes. The high-energy, filling snack option, like energy bars and nuts, received 35%. And the savory, spicy, stimulating snack option had surged from behind to capture 38% of the votes, almost catching up to the leading coffee option. Eleanor's gaze finally shifted from the screen and landed on Mark, whose face had gone a bit stiff. The users have expressed their preference with data. Their real needs are more important than our preconceived brand image. After she finished, she gently placed her pen back on the table. Continue. Mark opened his mouth, then closed it again, and sank back into his chair, looking sheepish. I quickly seized the opportunity, cleared my throat, and continued with the rest of the promotional plan and budget estimate. The invisible pressure I'd been feeling seemed to have been pierced by Eleanor's words. I could breathe a little easier. 33. The meeting ended. The general direction was set. Mark had been publicly shut down by the director with data. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. He left without a word after the meeting. Everyone else, however, breathed a sigh of relief. A few colleagues I was close with crowded around to congratulate me. Ryan, you're a beast. You actually put chili sticks in a proposal and got the director to back you up? I'm impressed. Dude, you've got some serious skills. Spill it. What kind of spell did you cast on the director? I don't care. The first batch of 3-minute power surge samples, you have to save one for me. I want the hellfire level. It was chaotic. I juggled their comments. While packing up my laptop and notebook, I looked up. Eleanor was already at the door, seemingly about to leave. Maybe my stare was too obvious. Or maybe she was in a good mood today. Her steps faltered for a fraction of a second. She turned slightly, across the few meters and the last few chattering colleagues in the room. Her gaze passed over their shoulders and met mine. 34. Time seemed to slow down a half speed. She stood there. The light at the doorway was a bit dim. The bright hallway light behind her created a sharp, straight silhouette. Between us were the messy chairs of the conference room and the still chattering colleagues. Her eyes, rested on my face for a brief moment. No nod, no smile, just a very, very slight. A movement so small that if you weren't staring, you would have missed it. A dip of her chin, like a small pebble dropping into a bottomless pond, creating a faint, fleeting ripple. And then she looked away, turned, and her figure quietly disappeared into the light of the hallway. 35. The project moved into the development phase. After my 3-minute power surge concept was approved, work flooded in like a broken dam. I was working late every night, either hashing out packaging design details with the product team or discussing costs and feasibility with the supply chain. I also had to coordinate with the marketing department for the pre-launch promotional materials. Eleanor was just as busy. She personally oversaw quality control and data analysis. Every Friday afternoon, she would set aside time for a project progress meeting. Usually, she would call the core team members into her glass-walled office. Every meeting, the atmosphere was so tense you could cut it with a knife. The marketing director's presence was no joke. She would sit behind her large desk, holding the thick stack of materials we had submitted, asking one question after another, each one as precise as a surgeon's scalpel. She could always find a few logical inconsistencies or data discrepancies in the PowerPoint. Page 3, the user scenario pain point simulation, the estimated usage frequency model, and the sample size of the survey from the feedback channels on page 9. There's a fundamental probability bias. Recheck it. She would tap the desk with the tip of her silver pen. Her voice was devoid of warmth. The weight of the product combo contents exceeds the initial shipping weight limit by 0.7 grams. Optimize it. The flavor stability of the first batch of pre-production samples is too inconsistent. Contact the supplier. I always sat at the far end of the long table, listening to her flawless analysis and sharp critiques, frantically taking notes, my heart pounding in my chest. I kept thinking, this woman is terrifying when she's working. After every meeting, my back would be covered in a thin layer of sweat. This Friday, we were in her office again for the next round of sample flavor testing. The table was covered with a dozen open vacuum-sealed packages. Inside were various flavors of energy bars, small portions of nuts, spicy snacks, and so on. We needed to select the final flavors for the combo. Eleanor sat at the head of the table. Next to her were the head of quality control and 2 people from the marketing department. My job was to record and organize the feedback. Everyone took turns tasting, scoring, and discussing. When it came to the spicy snack options, Mark was clearly uncomfortable. He only reluctantly tried a small piece of the mildest option. Then he put down his small fork with a frown. This one is still too oily, the head of quality control, a woman in her 40s, said after a small bite of the chili oil-soaked tofu jerky. She shook her head. Eating this during work hours, it might be a bit unseemly. Another person from marketing chimed in. Yeah, the optics might not be great. Eleanor didn't say anything. She was wearing food-grade gloves. With a very swift and efficient movement, she picked up the small fork labeled for tasting from the small box. Without a moment's hesitation, she speared a piece of the bright red, glistening sesame and chili powder dusted, and frankly very intimidating-looking demon pepper threads, and steadily brought it to her lips. Everyone was watching her. She chewed, her expression unchanging. The oily, chili powder-coated gluten threads made a soft, crunching sound between her lips. A few seconds later, she picked up a glass of sparkling water and took a small sip. And then, under everyone's watchful eyes, she picked up her pen, and in the flavor evaluation column for the demon pepper threads, with a steady hand, and without any hesitation, she drew a large, clear check mark. The quality control manager asked hesitantly, Ms. Vance, the heat level of this one, won't it be too intense for the average user? Eleanor put down her pen. She picked up a napkin and slowly wiped her lips. Then she looked up. Her gaze swept over everyone in the room. Since we branded it as a power surge, the purpose of the spicy option is to provide a distinct flavor stimulation and a clear choice for the consumer. Her voice was calm, but carried an undeniable weight. If you're worried it's too spicy, you can choose the non-spicy or mild option. She paused, but without an extreme option, this combo pack loses its core memorable feature. She picked up her pen again, and the tip lightly tapped the number corresponding to the demon pepper threads. Keep it as the optional highest heat level item. The meeting ended. The quality control manager and I stayed behind to clean up the table full of sample debris and notes. Eleanor remained seated. She opened her laptop and seemed to start working on something else. The only sounds in the room were the rustling of plastic packaging, the scratching of a pen on paper, and the low, rhythmic tapping of her keyboard. I was busy sorting the spicy and sweet items that my hand slipped. A small, unopened bag of honey-glazed jerky slid off the table and landed right in the empty space at the edge of her desk. It was in an awkward spot. It had rolled into the narrow gap between her large desk and her office chair. I instinctively bent down to pick it up, but the angle was really awkward, and she was sitting right there. Crawling under her desk to pick up a snack. The quality control manager saw it too. She was hesitating, wondering if she should help. Eleanor, at her desk, seemed to have heard the soft thud. Her typing fingers paused. Her gaze shifted from a screen. She looked down at the bag of jerky by her feet, and then, under my and the manager's slightly awkward gaze, she did something completely unexpected. She didn't call for a janitor. She didn't gesture for me to pick it up. She didn't even say a word. Eleanor simply and very naturally bent down. Her arm reached into the narrow gap next to her chair. The simple, clean lines of her light brown cashmere sweater traced the smooth curve of her back and shoulders as she moved. A few loose strands of her hair fell forward, gently brushing her cheek. Her long, pale fingers accurately pinched the small bag of honey-glazed jerky with its cartoon pig logo. The entire process was quick and silent. No hesitation or awkward pauses. After picking it up, still in a slightly bent position, she raised her arm and very naturally placed the small bag back on the pile of samples waiting to be sorted in front of me. There was no eye contact throughout the entire process. It was as if she were just brushing a stray leaf off her desk. After she had done this, she straightened up, her posture as perfect as ever. Her gaze returned to her laptop screen. Her slender fingers resumed their rhythmic tapping on the keyboard. The quality control manager's mouth was slightly agape. She glanced back and forth between me and the director, a look of stunned disbelief on her face. I looked down at the bag of jerky, now returned to me by Eleanor's casual flick of the wrist. Then I looked at the director, sitting behind her computer screen, her expression as calm as ever, as if nothing had happened. The final production samples finally arrived, a week later than scheduled. The entire project team, including the factory, had pulled several all-nighters. Just before quitting time, a delivery guy, huffing and puffing, carried 2 huge cardboard boxes up to our floor. He dropped them at the entrance to our project team's small storage room. The boxes were clearly marked: 3-minute power surge, final samples, internal testing. "The samples are here," the girl in charge of production coordination yelled from the hallway. Instantly, almost everyone from the project team and the relevant marketing staff crowded around. Unboxing time. The first batch of official samples. Everyone was excited. We tore open the heavy shipping boxes. Inside were the individual product units, the small, matte-finished triangular boxes, orange and teal, with a bold lightning bolt symbol and abstract stick figures. Full of energy, we opened the boxes. Inside were the individually designed packages, a packet of instant coffee with a lightning bolt logo, a sealed multi-grain and nut energy bar, and the grand finale, a vacuum-sealed bag of spicy konjac strips and another bag with a prominent flame logo, the limited edition Demon Pepper Thread sample I had personally approved. "I want one. Ryan, give me one first. Save a bag of the Demon Pepper Threads for me. I bet $5 no one dares to eat it. Get lost. It's mine." A crowd of people were clamoring to get their hands on the samples. I got my own. I tore open the coffee packet and made myself a cup. The rich, hot aroma filled the air. I quickly snapped a photo, holding the orange and teal triangular box, with the individual package of Demon Pepper Threads still inside, and posted on my Instagram story, with the caption, "My project, baby. The power surge is here to save my life." Less than a minute after I posted the story, a light popped up. The profile picture was the scattered silver pixels on a deep blue background. Eleanor Vance. About 5 seconds later, the notification light from my work instant messenger suddenly blinked. I opened it. It was Eleanor. A single curt period, followed by the next message, yours, as an extra. I stared at it for a few seconds before I understood. She said, has an extra. Did she mean she had saved one for me? Just then, I heard the intern at the front desk's voice cut through the chaos. Ryan, Director Vance's office, just called. They said for you to, stop by our office before you leave. Something about an extra sample. I quickly called back. Got it. On my way. I packed up my things, under the watchful eyes of my colleagues, who were like a pack of wolves devouring their prey. I managed to protect my own sample and break free from the crowd, and headed to Eleanor's office. I knocked. The familiar, cool voice from inside. Come in. I pushed the door open. Eleanor was still at her desk, working. Her laptop screen cast a faint glow. On the small coffee table by the window was a small box, identical to the sample boxes we had just received. Orange and teal, lightning bolt symbol. She didn't look up. Her eyes were still glued to the screen. She only said, in a quiet tone, yours. An extra. Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Vance. I immediately said, walking over to pick up the box. I was about to leave when Eleanor, who had been staring at her computer screen, suddenly spoke again. This time, she looked up. Her gaze passed over the top of her laptop screen and landed on my face. That. She paused for about half a second, as if searching for the right words. And then, she said, clearly, 2 keywords, demon threads. Limited sample. My eyes instinctively flickered to her laptop screen. Open on the screen was, of course, our internal project team's group chat. Messages were scrolling by at a frantic pace. The entire screen was filled with people either wailing about or bragging about getting their hands on the limited edition Demon Pepper Threads sample. Damn it, Mark stole my Demon Pepper Threads. Ryan, you owe me. Ha, Ryan, you're the man. This Hellfire heat level is no joke. Director Vance is a genius, an angel on earth. I understood instantly. The commotion from the project team scrambling for the limited edition item had undoubtedly reached her. She had probably seen the chaotic scene in the group chat, and the laments of some who claimed they hadn't gotten their hands on the limited edition chili sticks, like me. So, this extra box, did it contain more than just a regular sample? Maybe some extra goodies? I tightened my grip on the light box in my hand and looked at the director. Her face still wore its usual calm expression, but in her eyes, behind her glasses, there seemed to be a faint, fleeting hint of mischief, like a cunning little fish swimming beneath the surface of a calm lake. Thank you, Ms. Vance, I added, my voice sincere, a smile I couldn't control starting to form at the corners of my mouth. She just gave a quiet and looked back down. Her fingers resumed their tapping on the keyboard. Click, clack, click. On the way back to my desk, I couldn't resist secretly pulling open the seal on the box. And sure enough, inside, besides the standard coffee packet and energy bar, in the spot where the spicy snack should have been, were 2 bags. Yes, 2 bags of the limited edition Demon Pepper Threads with the flame logo. The project was nearing its final launch. The pre-launch marketing campaign was in full swing. Bus stop ads, elevator ads, and even short video ads were being pushed out. Huge posters lined the subway tunnels. The background of the image was an office cubicle. The main character was a vibrant cartoon office worker, holding up our orange and teal 3-minute power surge box, with explosive lightning effects in the background. And next to it, the catchy slogan, Fragmented Time, Max Power. The response was surprisingly good. There was a lot of buzz on various social media platforms. The most stressful phase was finally over. Even Mark, whose face had been tense for the past month, finally had a smile on his face. He did something completely out of character and announced a project team celebration dinner for this Friday night. The location was a new Korean barbecue place near the office. The atmosphere was lively. The round tables were all full. The grill in the center of the table was sizzling. At first, everyone was a little reserved, but a combination of alcohol and delicious food quickly loosened everyone up. The atmosphere became boisterous. People were laughing, telling stories, and toasting each other. Even a usually serious quality control manager's cheeks were flushed with red. Mark was in high spirits. He went around toasting everyone. When he got to my table, he came over with his glass and clapped me hard on the shoulder. Ryan. His voice was loud, and he smelled of beer. This time, You really did a great job. You kid, you really pulled it off. At first, I really didn't think much of this chili stick energy pack. Huh. He swirled his glass. But the market feedback has been amazing. I stand corrected. I stand corrected. Come on, let's have a drink. The colleagues around us all cheered. I downed the beer in my glass. My stomach churned a little. The atmosphere grew even more lively. The meat on the grill sizzled and bubbled. Mark seemed to be getting more and more excited. Hey, speaking of which, his eyes drifted to the next table, his voice filled with a gossipy curiosity. Don't you guys think Director Vance has been a little different lately? At the next table were a few women from the project and marketing teams. They had been chattering about a new dress one of them had bought. When they heard Mark's question, one of the bolder ones chimed in, Hey, now that you mention it, Mark, I think you're right. Another one immediately added, Totally. Last Wednesday afternoon, right? Around 5, I went to the marketing department to drop off a report. I passed by Director Vance's huge office, you know, the one with the glass walls, and you'll never guess what I saw. She deliberately lowered her voice, but you could still hear the excitement in it. Director Vance, she wasn't at her computer. She was just leaning back in her ergonomic chair, and she was holding a small bag of something. And then, with 2 fingers, very slowly, very elegantly, she was picking something out of the bag and eating it. What was it? Mark asked, leaning in closer. The woman winked and gestured with her hand. It was a small bag about this big. I have good eyesight. I could vaguely see on the bag a red chili flame logo and the word hell. The Hellfire Heat Level Demon Pepper Threads, our internal nickname, for it was Hellfire. The sip of plum juice I had just taken went straight down the wrong pipe. I coughed so hard I thought I was going to die. Mark had clearly made the connection too, and his expression suddenly became a bit strange. A few other people at the table exchanged knowing glances. The woman, oblivious, continued her excited story. And the craziest part is, she was eating it very slowly, and she seemed to be looking out the window, and her lips, they were kind of turned up in a smile. Can you believe it? Our Never Smiles director, hiding in her office, secretly eating chili sticks. And she was smiling while eating them. The contrast, it's amazing. Ha ha ha. Oh my God. I can picture it so clearly. The director's entire persona has officially crumbled. The whole table burst out laughing. They continued to drink and chat. No one mentioned the director's private stash of Hellfire chili sticks in her office again. But the story itself had become an open secret, with a shared sense of absurd amusement. The party ended. It was after 10 at night. Everyone, a bit tipsy, hailed Ubers to go home. I hadn't had much to drink, but Mark had insisted on a celebratory drink with me at the end, and I couldn't refuse. I stood outside the barbecue restaurant. A late-night breeze blew by, carrying the unique warmth and dryness of late summer. The little bit of beer in my stomach felt like it was fermenting. My head felt a bit heavy. I was looking down, trying to order a car on my app, when a new message suddenly popped up at the top of my screen. From Eleanor Vance. A single question mark, followed by a second message. Where are you? Still outside the restaurant, I replied. My heart skipped a beat. Why was she messaging me so late? Was there a problem with the project? Or was there some data that needed to be checked urgently? As I was thinking, another message from Eleanor came through. Very short. Location. Share. I was even more confused. Share my location? Why would the director need my location? But I did as she asked and tapped the share location icon. The icon activated. 2 small avatars lit up on the map, a short distance apart. She was nearby. The next second, another message from Eleanor popped up on my phone. Stay. Don't move. I have something for you. The amount of information was overwhelming. My brain felt like it had been thrown into a high-speed blender. Director Vance was nearby, and she wanted to give me something. It was after 10 at night. What could it be? An urgent project document that needed my signature? 100 different possibilities flashed through my mind, but none of them could perfectly explain the current situation. Less than 5 minutes later, a black Mercedes S-Class sedan across the street slowed down and finally stopped in the shadows of a tree where the streetlight didn't quite reach. The car's silhouette was sleek and understated. Parked in the darkness, it looked like a predator with its claws retracted. Across the narrow street, the passenger side window silently lowered halfway. The dim yellow light partially illuminated the car's interior. In the driver's seat, Eleanor Vance had one hand on the steering wheel. Her profile was half hidden in the dim light. Her nose was straight, her jawline sharp. Her long hair fell smoothly around her neck and shoulders. She wasn't wearing a jacket, just what looked like a very soft, cream-colored, thin-knit sweater. It was a completely different look from her usual sharp, business-like attire at the office. There was a hint of a relaxed, at-home vibe to her. She didn't get out of the car. She just turned her head. Across the street, through the thin night mist and the dense shadows of the trees. Her gaze met mine, from a not-so-close distance. I thought I saw her raise her hand. I wasn't sure. I looked both ways for traffic, and jogged across the street. The hood of the Mercedes radiated a faint warmth in the night air. I quickly walked up to the passenger side window. The car window was already down. I could see her more clearly. Her skin had a soft glow under the mixture of the car's interior lights and the street lights. Ms. Vance. I leaned down slightly, closer to the window. Eleanor turned her face directly toward me. The distance was very close. I could smell that familiar, faint, cool scent of sandalwood mixed with the clean warmth of cashmere from her. "Here," she said, cutting to the chase. And then, from the passenger seat floor, she bent down and pulled out a huge, deep blue shopping bag with a prominent supermarket logo. It was bulging through the semi-transparent bag. I could see it was stuffed with all sorts of colorful, brightly branded chili sticks, Demon's Breath, Chili Folks, Spicy Oil Shreds, Classic Heat Wave, Cumin Spice Strips, and even a few packets of spicy ramen sauce. And all sorts of dried fruits, nuts, beef jerky, and even 2 large tubs of imported butter popcorn. A whole menagerie of snacks. It was about to burst the bag. The quantity was staggering. The variety was astounding. Enough to open a small snack shop. I was completely stunned, like a low-quality robot that had just been crashed by a massive program. I could only stare at the huge blue shopping bag. "This is so much." My voice was a little faint, filled with disbelief. "Ms. Vance, what is all this?" Eleanor's hand was still resting loosely on the steering wheel. Her fingertips tapped lightly on the black leather. She looked up, through the car window. She looked at the overflowing bag in my hand. Then her gaze shifted to my face, and on her elegant, usually expressionless face, her lips seemed to, very slightly, tug upward at the corners, like a shooting star in the night sky, gone in an instant. So fast you would have thought you'd imagined it. But in her eyes, which were usually too calm, there now seemed to be a few specks of starlight, bright, with a hint of a barely perceptible, faint warmth. "The project," she began. Her voice was a little lower than usual, and in the quiet night street, it sounded particularly clear. "You worked hard." 2 words, spoken crisply and decisively. Then she paused again. Her gaze shifted from my face to the mountain of snacks. That look was like she was admiring a carefully prepared masterpiece. Finally, she added a sentence, as if explaining, or as if giving herself an excuse. "I passed by the supermarket. The shelf was on sale. I bought too much. You can help me with it." I didn't know what to say. I just felt a wave of heat rush from my chest to the top of my head. My face was burning. Even my ears were hot. Holding this heavy and thoughtful shopping bag in my hands felt like I was holding a heavy, beating planet. "Thank you, Ms. Vance," I finally managed to say after what felt like an eternity. My voice was a bit hoarse. Eleanor had already turned her gaze back to the road ahead. "Get home safe," she said, her words concise. And then she said no more. Her pale hands rested steadily on the steering wheel. The car window began to silently close. Her face, a mixture of light and shadow, calm and with a hint of unusual warmth, was slowly hidden from view as the glass rose. Finally, all that was left was the smooth, dark car window, reflecting the blurry streetlights and shadows of the trees. The black Mercedes S-Class glided forward, silently and smoothly, and merged into the sparse late-night traffic, quickly disappearing into the distant city lights. I held the huge, heavy bag of snacks, like I was hugging the biggest pumpkin from the harvest. I stood there, foolishly. The night wind blew against my face. It hadn't completely cooled down yet. The bag was so heavy it was starting to hurt my fingers. I looked down, through the semi-transparent plastic bag. I could see two familiar red packages on top, the limited edition Demon Pepper threads. I could even see the corner of a popcorn tub, squashed and misshapen from being stuffed in so forcefully. A slow smile spread across my face. I laughed silently. There was a feeling in my chest, a mixture of pressure and warmth. This wasn't a sale shelf. This was a full-on, warehouse-clearing level shopping spree. I took out my phone, and under the streetlight, I snapped a picture of the massive bag. Then I opened my chat with Eleanor. I sent the photo, and below it, a line of text. Ms. Vance, that supermarket's sale shelf seems to have a pretty big appetite. After I sent the photo, there was no reply for a long time. The night grew darker. I carried my giant pumpkin home and dropped the mountain of snacks in the entryway. I collapsed onto the couch, exhausted, just when I thought the director was either ignoring my cheesy joke or had already gone to bed. My phone screen on the coffee table suddenly lit up. No text message, just a thumbnail of a photo. From Eleanor. I tapped to enlarge the image. The photo had been taken from inside her car. The angle was a bit crooked. It was a shot of the passenger seat. On the dark leather, a few thin, deep red, oily chili threads were scattered. No doubt, it was clear that, from an angle I couldn't see before, someone had secretly opened a bag of the limited edition Demon Pepper threads and was driving and eating at the same time. The photo had no caption. I stared at the photo for a good 10 seconds. The chili threads scattered on the passenger seat looked like red strings, stark against the black leather. My finger hovered over the screen, suddenly unsure of how to reply. Should I say, be careful, don't eat, and drive? Too preachy. Send an emoji. Too flippant. In the end, I just awkwardly typed, drive safe. As soon as I sent it, I threw my phone on the couch, feeling like a guy who had no idea how to talk to women. The sound of the shower started. I took a hot shower, trying to wash away the chaotic thoughts of the evening. When I came out, dry my hair, I saw that my phone screen was lit up again. Eleanor had sent a new photo. This time, it was her left hand on the steering wheel, a sliver of her pale wrist peeking out from the cream-colored sweater sleeve. Between her index finger and thumb, she was holding half a bright red chili thread. In the background was the sign for her apartment building's underground parking garage. Below the photo was a line of text. Home. The heat level is just right. I stared at the photo, and my throat felt a little dry. Was she sharing this with me? The same director Vance, who couldn't be bothered to give anyone an extra glance at the office. My fingers moved faster than my brain, and the message was already sent. You live in this building, Ms. Vance? As soon as I sent it, I wanted to slap myself. Of course she did, dummy. Her reply was quick. Yes. Building B, 2801. I shot up from the couch. Building B? That was the building right across from mine. If I looked out my floor-to-ceiling window, I was looking directly at the lights of Building B. My phone vibrated again. Look out the window. I practically threw myself at the window. The floor-to-ceiling window of the 28th floor across from me was lit with a warm yellow light. A slender figure was standing by the window, holding a phone. I couldn't see her expression, but her posture clearly indicated she was waiting for my response. I fumbled to open my camera and took a picture of the view outside my window. When I sent it, I realized the photo was so blurry it looked like an abstract painting. I quickly sent a follow-up message. I see you. The figure in the window, across the way, seemed to look down. My phone immediately lit up. The snacks. Bringing them to the office tomorrow. That's when I remembered the strategic reserves she had stuffed into the bag. No problem. Which ones do you like, Ms. Vance? I'll bring extra tomorrow. I regretted sending that as soon as I hit send. Wasn't that a bit too eager? She paused for a few seconds. The Demon Pepper threads. And that jar of sour plum candies on your table. I turned to look at the half-eaten jar of sour plum candies on my coffee table. When had she noticed that? Okay, tomorrow. I was halfway through typing when a new message popped up. Now, is it a good time? I stared at those two words for 3 full seconds. Now, at 11:30 at night, my finger hovered over the keyboard, a million possibilities flashing through my mind. In the end, I just replied, yes. She sent back an apartment number, 2801. The code is 1029. I was still in a daze as I rode the elevator. 1029, the anniversary of our company's founding. She used that as her door code? Ding. The 28th floor. The double doors at the end of the hallway were slightly ajar, a warm light spilling out from the gap. I took a deep breath and gently pushed the door open. Ms. Vance? I'm here. The living room was warmer than I had expected. A few throw pillows were scattered on the cream-colored rug, and a food documentary was playing silently on the TV. The air smelled faintly of sandalwood mixed with a hint of chili sticks. Eleanor walked out of the open-plan kitchen. She had changed into a light gray loungewear set. Her hair was loosely tied up, and she was wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. She was holding 2 steaming mugs. Have a seat, she said, gesturing to the couch. Honey citron tea. It helps with the spice. I carefully placed a bag of snacks on the coffee table. Ms. Vance, these. Call me Eleanor, she interrupted, handing me a mug. It's after hours. The moment our fingers touched, a tiny electric current shot up my arm. I quickly took the mug, the warmth spreading from my palm to my ears. So, I tried to make conversation. I didn't realize we lived so close. She took a sip of her tea, her eyes behind the glasses crinkling slightly. I know. What? That's succulent on your balcony, she said, pointing out the window. I can see it every day. My eyes widened. That half-dead cactus had been left behind by my former roommate. So she had known all along. Ryan, she suddenly put down her mug. Why do you always bring me snacks? The question came out of nowhere. I opened my mouth, but my throat was tight. Because you like them. Call me Eleanor. She repeated, her voice softer. She had taken off her glasses and placed them on the coffee table. Without the lenses, her eyes, in the warm light, looked like melted amber. My heart was beating so fast it felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. Because I want to see you smile. As soon as the words were out, I wanted to bite my tongue. What kind of cheesy line was that? But Eleanor actually smiled. Not the polite, professional curve of her lips at the office, but a real smile that started in her eyes, making them crinkle at the corners and revealing 2 small, cute canines. You succeeded, she said. How we ended up closer after that, the memory is a blur. I only remember that her lips tasted of sweet honey and fiery chili. I tasted the afterburn of the demon pepper threads and the faint scent of citron in her breath. Her hand was around the back of my neck, her fingertips cool. My palm was on her waist, the knit sweater as soft as a cloud. When we pulled apart, the tip of her nose brushed against my cheek. A permanent membership, she said, her breathing unsteady. What's the discount? I leaned my forehead against hers and laughed. It's free. Not good enough. She frowned, looking like she was reviewing a contract. I want a lifetime membership. Outside, a firework suddenly burst in the night sky between our 2 buildings. It illuminated the tips of her reddened ears and the next kiss that landed on my lips.